In this unit, Unit 14 of the course, we're going to be examining a number of different topics. One of the topics is what I call big picture and user participation projects. And kind of a subset of that is crowdsourcing. And the other thing we're going to be looking at is online timelines. Got a little pause there and everything. So big user participation projects or crowdsourcing. These are projects that attempt to use the knowledge of a large number of online people to solve a problem and everything. And one of the examples I give here is this field expedition, Mongolia, the search for Genghis Khan's tomb. Um, this is this user participation project's been up a couple years now. I did some of it when it first came up, and it's really interesting. And what the website does is has everybody who logs in looks at small pieces of a digital map, digital imagery of Mongolia, and to try and identify structures and objects on those maps that might lead scientists to discover where Genghis Khan was buried, because nobody knows where he was buried and everything. And so it's really interesting to play with it and see what you can do with the visual interpretation. There's some problems with it and everything, and I got kind of bored with it after a while. One of the problems, for example, was uh, as you work through the images, you're supposed to get increasingly more difficult images as your accuracy improves over time. But what I found was it seemed that every time you logged back into the project, you had to start all over again. Um, uh, and there's a couple other participation projects I have there. But of course, one of the most famous and the most widely used kind of crowdsourcing participation projects is, of course, Wikipedia, which draws on the knowledge of the crowd, be that good or bad. In most cases, it's pretty darn good to create the online encyclopedia and everything. And Wikipedia is a pretty successful user participation project. The other thing we're doing in Unit 14 is online timelines. And like with what I said with data visualization projects, if you were just coding a timeline, there's really not too much that you can do. Now, of course, with my cultural history of the last 50 years timeline, I've been able to do a little bit more and make it a little more complicated and everything. But generally, with kind of a coded HTML timeline, you're really limited with what you can do. But now there's a whole slew of online software timeline apps, and I've got some of them listed here. There's other ones out there and everything. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. Some of them are easy, some of them are very complicated and everything. But what they do is they allow you to easily create an online timeline. Let me see if I can click on an example here. This is a Time Glider World War I example of a timeline. It's pretty complicated. Let's do history of Italy is always an interesting thing. This is an X timeline. It might load, it might not load. It's not loading, so I'm going to bag it. Go to JFK assassination timeline. And this is a pretty cool timeline, and then you can click on each of these little things. But, this is the way the web is going with these kind of software apps that allow you to put content online without knowing a whole lot of detail about the software behind the app and everything. You can just use the app and everything. And so timelines are really cool. They're really interesting. I've introduced timeline assignments in a number of my courses, and the students seem to really enjoy that because it's a different way of constructing history. And because it's chronology, that's usually easier for most students to understand history if you approach history chronologically and everything. And so I think this is really useful for history courses and everything. So back to the schedule, you have some reading in the Roe Rosenzweig book about preserving digital history and what happens to digital history over time. The couple examples of crowdsourcing and user participations, and then the timeline assignment. You can do it or not do it. The requirement in the course is to submit, I think, 2 of the 4 assignments: the St. Petersburg map, the Sladyton News, the data visualization, or timeline, but you can go ahead and do that if you want. Okay, that's it for Unit 14.